Hi, I'm Michelle the Irritable Vegan, and today's recipe is all about this super simple and delicious 5-minute flare-up soup. I hope you enjoy it. Although I'm sharing this basic recipe that I make on a weekly basis, this dish is so versatile that you can use whatever you have to hand. We'll begin with 50 grams of whole wheat vermicelli noodles, which is roughly 1 nest. The base flavour comes from 15 grams of spring onion greens. You could also use the top of a leek. For a boost of flavour, I add 5 grams of fresh ginger root. Today's greens will be 50 grams of spring or collard greens. You could also use kale, cabbage, bok choy or spinach. One thing that I never substitute in this dish is carrot. We'll be using 50 grams or 1 small carrot. An optional ingredient is 10 grams of celery. It's a tiny portion but worth adding if you can tolerate it. Feel free to leave it out if you prefer. Another optional ingredient is broccoli, or in this case broccolini. 45 grams is the safe low FODMAP portion. It adds a nice bite to the dish, but use or omit it according to tolerance. The final essential ingredient is 50 grams of radish, which I use in every variation of this soup for its peppery fresh flavour. The main protein element in this dish comes from 100 grams of tofu. If you can't tolerate tofu, then I've substituted this in the past with a safe serve of canned lentils or frozen edamame beans. Chop or grate your vegetables as finely as possible so everything cooks quickly and evenly. Thoroughly wash your leafy greens, remove the woody stem and slice thinly. Peel and grate your carrot. I use a box grater by hand, but you could also use a food processor. Trim the root and stem from the radish and grate the remaining bulb. There's no need to peel off the lovely red skin. Peel and grate the ginger. You should end up with about a heaped teaspoon once it's grated. Chop the heads and stalk of the broccolini as finely as possible. I leave the small florets intact for some extra bite. Finally, press and drain the tofu thoroughly before grating it. This fine texture works really well in the soup and is perfect for people who don't like tofu or have issues with its rubbery texture. Heat a non-stick wok or deep pot over medium heat. Add 1 tablespoon of toasted sesame oil and allow the oil to heat gently for another minute. Add all the vegetables and the tofu to the pan. Stir well and fry on a medium-high heat for 2 minutes. Whilst the ingredients cook, sprinkle over half a teaspoon of Chinese 5-spice powder, a generous grind of black pepper and a tablespoon of soy sauce or tamari. After 2 minutes, add 500 ml or 2 cups of vegetable stock. Add in the vermicelli noodles. I like to gently break the nest apart to avoid ending up with a big clump of noodles that don't mix well with the rest of the ingredients. Once added, make sure the noodles are fully submerged in the hot broth and simmer on medium heat for 3 minutes until the noodles are fully cooked. Once the noodles are done, turn off the stove, remove the pan from the heat and stir through 1 teaspoon of miso paste. Use the tip of a wooden spoon to break the paste down before stirring thoroughly into the broth and then mixing throughout the soup. This recipe serves 1 large portion of soup. Depending on how delicate your tummy's feeling, you might want to portion it out into 2 servings. Ladle the noodles and vegetables into the bottom of the bowl and pour over the remaining broth. Depending on the stock you've used, you may want to add more salt to the finished dish according to taste. For an optional topping, sprinkle over a teaspoon of black sesame seeds. I eat this soup about twice a week, mostly because I enjoy it, but it does go down really nicely when you're experiencing a flare-up. The grated tofu and light spices reminds me of eating chicken noodle soup as a child whenever I was feeling ill. On days when you're eating this for pleasure rather than pain, I recommend adding an extra level of flavour with crushed fennel seeds, coriander seeds, peanut butter, dried chilli flakes and a teaspoon of FODMAP friendly lime pickle. This versatile soup is fantastic for using up odds and ends of ingredients left over from other recipes. I'd love for you to give this a try and share your version of this recipe in the comments below. As always, thanks so much for watching and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.